Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is a beautiful, at times heart-wrenching story-driven experience in a fairy tale world where you follow the story of two brothers trying to find a cure for their sick father. Through a sequence of puzzles and beautifully designed environments, the player experiences the trials, terrors, and struggles the brothers must undergo in order to save their father. This game was originally developed by Starbreeze Studios and headed by Joseph Fares, who is a Swedish film director. The game originally released on PC, Xbox 360, and PS3 in August of 2013, and since went on to be received very favorably, even selling over 800,000 units in 2 years since its initial release. I didn't get around to playing it myself until much more recently, but I'm impressed and can see why it was so well received back then, and I'm pleased to say that the game still holds up well after over 10 years, which is certainly why 505 Games recently decided to release a remaster of it. Now, this is a review of the original release, not the remastered version that came out a few weeks ago at the time of recording. I personally don't have an interest in playing the remastered version for reasons that I will explain later. The story opens up tragically with a flashback scene where we see how the sons lost their mother in an accident at sea. Immediately following that, we are introduced to the older brother beckoning his younger sibling to help their sick father, who appears to be gravely ill. We're not given the ages of the boys, but it's clear that they are both still quite young. The boys are met by their local healer, who instructs them to find a magical elixir, and then the quest begins. One interesting item of note that I want to address immediately is that even though most of the characters you see in this game have some voiceover, they speak a language that appears to have been made up specifically for the game, so all the storytelling is done non-verbally other than the obvious inflections of emotion from the characters' voices. Despite the lack of voiced narrative, this is a very well-told and emotional experience. The game is an excellent example of the storyteller's mantra, show, don't tell, especially since there is no intelligible dialogue. Since everything in the story is delivered via the actions of the characters, it becomes easy to understand, and the boys are both very relatable in their own ways. There are a few light-hearted moments, and some moments where you can really appreciate the beauty that the developers worked into this game. But mostly, this is a sad, dark story with honestly a fairly grim ending that I won't spoil for you. The game takes you on a fantastic adventure through caves, dungeons, giants' castles, and battlefields, as well as dangerous forests and terrifying wind-blown snowfields. I'm really impressed with how so many of the locations feel larger than life in such a small game. I guess it's just proof that you can make a level or a scene feel large without making it an open-world game. Though at first glance it would seem like this would be a multiplayer title, it's actually made for a single-player experience. The control scheme is interesting, where each analog stick on the controller moves one of the two brothers. There is only one action for each brother, which corresponds to the triggers on each respective side of the controller. The top bumpers control the camera movement left and right, though this is only available to selected parts of certain levels. There's also an option for actions to be taken with the keyboard, but that may prove to be more cumbersome to most. The controller definitely feels much better for this game, in my opinion. Early on, it seems that most of the time, both brothers interact with their environment in a similar way. Sometimes the older brother will have a different interaction than the younger brother. For example, the older brother is usually more direct with the characters he meets, immediately asking for directions to where he can find the cure for his father, while the younger brother is more playful and tends to play pranks on the people that he meets. These interactions become more starkly different, however, as you progress through the game and run into puzzles in which each brother has their own role to solve in the puzzle. I felt that the puzzles were designed very well, and they didn't rely on elements that were too often repeated throughout each of the levels, that there were many different variations. There are a few moments that I think must have influenced more recent games, like this interaction that's reminiscent of Kratos and Atreus in God of War 2018 with the letting down of the chain. The environments in the 2013 version of the game are beautifully rendered. Honestly, I think the visuals hold up well even 10 years later. The game starts you off in a beautiful fairy tale medieval village with golden hour lighting, so it makes everything feel dreamlike and serene despite the perilous tasks the boys are set to. The game ends up taking you through various underground areas, mountainous regions, snow fields, and enchanted forests. My impression is that this game is best suited for ages ranging from teens to adults. The story is a bit too dark for young children. I don't think it's anything that your average 13-year-old couldn't handle. There's some blood and there's some violence, some creepy moments, some horror. The game is simple, but it's not what I would consider a casual game per se, as there are some action sequences that do keep you on your toes a bit. This might be a problem for some, and for others it might be a bonus, but this game is short. 3 hours total runtime. That's it. There's not really much more than that in the game because there's not a lot of extra things to find. However, I think it's impressive how much the developers were able to pack into this short of an experience, and I think it's also refreshing to have a short narrative game to play like this every now and then. It's not as though every game has to be 60, 70, 150 full 7-course meal that something like Baldur's Gate 3 would be. And I still haven't finished that one. With that being said, this game is not really replayable. It's kind of a one-and-done sort of experience. So it really is kind of like an interactive movie. So even though it left me wanting more in the end, I didn't really have any desire to start it over again and play it another time. I have not yet played the remastered version, but from what I understand, the remaster of the game is mostly cosmetic, increasing the fidelity and resolution of the game's textures and visuals. The only other technical upgrade is the addition of local co-op, which honestly just makes sense, and probably should have been in the original, but I don't know that it really adds that much to be worth the remaster. From my opinion, if you've played the original, it's not really worth playing the remaster, unless you're very nostalgic for the original, I suppose. But for myself, I won't be getting the remaster. Overall, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is a beautifully done, simple, short narrative, single playthrough experience that definitely holds up after 10 years. If you like this video, please do me a solid and hit that like button. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, please subscribe and click the bell to get notified every time I upload something. Thank you for watching. Hope you and yours have a blessed time. Thanks.